There is a night in American history that was never supposed to happen. October 8th, 1871. A city built almost entirely of wood. A summer so dry that the ground cracked open. And a fire that moved faster than any human could run. This is not a story about a disaster that could have been prevented. This is about the moment when an entire city realized escape was no longer possible. No fire department could stop it. No river could contain it. No plan existed because no one believed a fire could consume an entire city in less than 48 hours. Today, using AI reconstruction, I am taking you inside Chicago on that night. You will see how fast the fire spread. You will understand why fleeing actually killed more people than staying. And you will witness the moment when survival stopped being a choice and became pure chance. The question is not whether they escaped. Most did not. The question is, would you have made the right decision in the 3 minutes you had before the flames arrived? Because in Chicago, 1871, the greatest danger was not the fire itself. It was believing you still had time. On the evening of October 8th, 1871, Chicago is a city that believes in its future. The population has exploded from 30,000 to over 300,000 in just 20 years. Railroads converge here from every direction. Grain elevators tower over the Chicago River. Lumber yards stretch for blocks. This is the fastest growing city in America. Walk through the streets on a Sunday evening and you see confidence everywhere. Gas lamps flicker to life as darkness falls. Saloons are crowded. Church bells ring. Horse-drawn carriages clatter over wooden block pavement. The air smells of coal smoke, horse manure, and grain dust from the mills along the river. But Chicago has a problem it refuses to acknowledge. Almost everything here is made of wood. The sidewalks are wood. The roads are paved with wooden blocks soaked in tar. Houses, warehouses, churches, hotels, even some of the newer commercial buildings are constructed almost entirely of timber. Wooden shingles cover the roofs. Wooden fences connect properties. The city sits on a prairie with no local stone, so wood became the default material for everything. In 1871, Chicago contains approximately 60,000 buildings. Of these, roughly 40,000 are made entirely of wood. By the fall of 1871, Chicago is not just a city. It is kindling waiting for a spark. The summer has been brutal. From July through early October, less than 3 inches of rain have fallen. Wells have run dry. The Chicago River has dropped to its lowest level in memory. Wooden buildings have shrunk and cracked in the heat, opening gaps between boards. Every structure in the city has become drier, more brittle, more ready to burn. Small fires have been breaking out all week. On Saturday, October 7th, a massive blaze destroys 4 blocks on the west side. It takes 16 hours to bring under control. The fire department exhausts itself fighting this single fire. Firefighters work through the night and into Sunday morning, finally returning to their stations just hours before the next alarm. They have no idea what is coming. At approximately 8:45 p.m. on Sunday, October 8th, a fire starts on the city's southwest side, in or near the barn behind the home of Patrick and Catherine O'Leary at 137 DeCoven Street. The exact cause will never be conclusively determined. The legend of Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicking over a lantern will persist, but it is likely fabricated by a newspaper reporter looking for a simple story. What matters is not how it started. What matters is what happens next. The fire begins small, a single barn burning in a working-class neighborhood. Under normal conditions, this would be routine. The fire department would respond, contain the blaze, and be done within an hour. But these are not normal conditions. A strong southwest wind is blowing at 20 to 30 miles per hour. The air is bone dry, and the firefighters are exhausted from the previous night's work. When the alarm finally reaches the fire station, there is confusion about the location. The watchman in the courthouse tower misidentifies the fire's position. Precious minutes are lost. By the time the first fire companies arrive, the flames have already jumped to neighboring buildings. Wooden fences connecting properties act as fuses, carrying fire from one structure to the next. Sparks ride the wind, landing on roofs blocks away. New fires ignite faster than firefighters can track them. Within 30 minutes, the fire has spread across 6 blocks. The heat is so intense that wooden buildings spontaneously combust before the flames even touch them. Paint blisters, windows explode, wooden siding bursts into flame from radiant heat alone. The fire is no longer moving from building to building. It is leaping across streets, across empty lots, across anything in its path. The wind drives it forward like a living thing, hungry and accelerating. By 10:00 p.m., Fire Marshal Robert Williams realizes he is facing something beyond his experience. Every available fire company in the city is now committed, but they are making no progress. The wind is too strong. Equipment is failing. Hoses burst. Pumps seize. Williams makes a desperate decision. He orders firefighters to demolish buildings in the fire's path. If they can remove fuel ahead of the flames, perhaps the fire will stop. But there is no time. The buildings are demolished, but the wind carries burning debris over the gap. The effort fails. The fire continues to advance. By 10:30 p.m., the fire has crossed the south branch of the Chicago River. This is the moment when city officials realize they are facing something unprecedented. The river was supposed to act as a natural fire break, but embers carried by the wind are now landing on roofs on the opposite bank, igniting new fires faster than the original blaze can reach them. The fire is surrounding the city from multiple directions at once. People in the path of the flames have minutes, sometimes only seconds, to decide what to do, and most of them make the wrong choice. The instinct is to run, to grab what you can and flee as fast as possible. But in Chicago, running often means running directly into the fire's path. The wind shifts. The flames move faster than anticipated. Streets that were clear 5 minutes ago are now walls of fire. Watch what happens in a typical household on the west side as the fire approaches. A family of 6 hears shouting outside. The father steps into the street and sees the sky to the southwest glowing orange. Smoke is visible, thick and black, rolling toward them. He returns inside and tells the family to gather their belongings. They have time, he believes. The fire is still blocks away. The mother begins pulling clothes from drawers. The grandmother insists on retrieving family silver from the cellar. The children are told to gather their toys. The father loads a trunk onto a hand cart. 20 minutes pass. The sky outside grows brighter. The smell of smoke intensifies. Other families are now streaming past the house, some on foot, others in wagons. The street is becoming congested. The father realizes they have waited too long. He tells everyone to leave immediately. But the grandmother refuses to abandon the silver. The mother wants to save the family Bible. The children are crying. By the time they finally leave the house, the street is chaos. Hundreds of people are moving in both directions, unsure which way is safe. Wagons collide. Horses panic. People are thrown to the ground. The heat arrives before the fire does. The air becomes scorching. The children begin to cough. The grandmother struggles to keep pace. The father tries to push through the crowd, but the hand cart overturns. They abandon it. The family splits up in the confusion. The father holds 2 children. The mother holds the youngest. The grandmother falls behind. When the flames finally arrive, they move faster than a person can run. The father looks back and sees a wall of fire, 30 feet high, advancing down the street. He can no longer see the grandmother. He can no longer see the house. He runs, dragging the children, following the crowd. He does not know where his wife is. He does not know if his mother survived. He only knows that stopping means death. This scene repeats across the city, in hundreds of homes, as thousands of families make the same choices, the same mistakes. Families load possessions onto wagons. The streets become clogged. In the chaos, no one can agree on which direction is safe. Some head north. Others move east toward the lake. Some try to outrun the fire by heading south, only to find themselves cut off. The heat arrives before the fire does. Clothing begins to smoke. People cover their faces with wet cloth, but it dries instantly. When the flames finally arrive, witnesses later describe a wall of fire, 30 to 40 feet high, advancing with a roar like thunder. The wind whips the flames into a frenzy. Burning debris fills the air, falling like rain. People who tried to flee on foot are overtaken in the streets. Some collapse from heat exhaustion. Others are trapped when buildings collapse, blocking escape routes. Bodies are later found in alleys, in doorways, on sidewalks. One of the most horrifying discoveries comes after the fire, when rescuers find entire families in basements where they sought shelter. The walls protected them from flames, but the fire consumed all the oxygen. They suffocated in darkness, still waiting for safety that never came. At the Chicago River, thousands of people gather on the bridges, believing they can cross to safety. But the bridges themselves are made of wood. As the fire approaches, the bridges ignite. Watch what happens at the Randolph Street Bridge downtown. By 11:00 p.m., the bridge is packed with people, shoulder to shoulder. Wagons are jammed together. Horses scream. The air is thick with smoke. The fire reaches the western end first. The wooden deck begins to smoke. People at that end turn and try to push back through the crowd, but there is nowhere to go. Panic spreads. Then the eastern end ignites. The bridge is now burning from both sides. People trapped in the center realize there is no escape. Some jump into the river. Others are pushed. The bridge collapses, sending dozens of people into the water below. The river is filled with floating debris, much of it on fire. People surface, gasping, only to be struck by burning timber or pulled under by wet clothing. This scene repeats at every bridge. The Clark Street Bridge, the Wells Street Bridge, all ignite, all collapse. By midnight, the fire has reached the heart of downtown. The business district is engulfed. Structures made of brick and stone offer more resistance, but they do not survive. The heat is so intense that stone cracks and explodes. Iron beams twist and bend like wax. Masonry walls collapse inward. The Chicago Tribune building is consumed in minutes. The Palmer House Hotel burns despite its supposedly fireproof construction. The courthouse, with its massive bell tower, is the symbolic heart of the city. As the fire approaches, the massive bell rings continuously, warning residents to flee. The sound carries for miles. Then, at approximately 12:30 a.m., the ropes burn through. The bell falls silent. Minutes later, the entire structure collapses. At the waterworks on the north side, the fire reaches the wooden roof of the pumping station. This is critical. The waterworks supplies pressure to the entire city's hydrant system. The roof ignites. The pumping machinery is damaged by heat. By 1:00 a.m., the pumps stop working. Throughout the city, fire hoses suddenly go limp. Hydrants run dry. Firefighters are forced to retreat. There is nothing left to fight the fire with. By 1:30 a.m., the fire has jumped the main branch of the Chicago River and is advancing into the north side, the most densely populated residential area. Here, Wooden houses are packed so tightly together that entire blocks ignite simultaneously. Tens of thousands of people are now in the fire's direct path. Panic turns into stampede. Families are separated. Children are lost. The elderly are left behind. One survivor later writes about carrying her 2-year-old daughter through streets filled with fire. She describes the air as so hot it burned her lungs. Her daughter's hair began to singe. She soaked a blanket and wrapped the child in it, then ran north. She never saw her husband again. The only place left to run is Lincoln Park, a strip of open ground along the lakeshore. Thousands converge there. By 2:00 a.m., the park is packed with perhaps 30,000 people. But even Lincoln Park is not safe. The fire is so large that it creates its own weather. Superheated air rises, pulling in cooler air. Wind speeds increase. The fire begins to rotate, forming fire whirls that lift burning debris hundreds of feet into the air. Embers rain down on Lincoln Park. Grass ignites. Trees explode into flame. People scatter toward the lake. The refugees begin to dig holes in the sand, burying themselves to escape the heat. They leave only their faces exposed, breathing through wet cloth. Others wade into Lake Michigan, standing in water up to their necks for hours. The water is cold, perhaps 50 degrees, cold enough to cause hypothermia. But staying on land means certain death. One man later describes standing in the lake, holding his young daughter above the waterline while his wife clung to his back. They stayed there for over 3 hours, until the fire finally began to weaken. By the morning of October 9th, the fire has burned itself out. There is nothing left to consume. More than 3 square miles of the city have been destroyed. Over 17,000 buildings are gone. Approximately 300 people are confirmed dead, though the true number will never be known. Over 100,000 people are now homeless. The scene that greets survivors is apocalyptic. Streets that were lined with buildings are now empty corridors of ash. Landmarks have vanished. The only way to navigate is by memory. The ground is still hot. Twisted metal beams protrude from piles of rubble. Safes sit exposed, their contents baked to powder. Chimneys stand alone in a flattened landscape. People return to where their homes once stood and find nothing. Just ash and blackened bricks. Some dig through the ruins with bare hands. Most find only melted glass and twisted metal. The smell is overwhelming. Burned wood, scorched stone, and something organic that no one wants to name. Bodies are still being found days later. Some in basements, some in the river, some discovered in places that make no sense, suggesting the victims became disoriented and ran in the wrong direction. The question everyone asks afterward is simple: how did this happen? The answer is not one thing, it's everything. The city was built with the wrong materials. The summer had been too dry. The wind was too strong. The fire department was too exhausted. The alarm system failed. The river was too narrow. The response was too slow. Every small failure compounded into catastrophe. But the most important factor was human psychology. People believed they had time. They believed the fire could be controlled. They believed Chicago was too big, too modern, too important to be destroyed. That belief killed them. Those who survived were not the ones who fought the fire. They were the ones who abandoned everything the moment they saw flames. They were the ones who ignored instinct, who left behind valuables, who made the hardest choice and did it immediately. Hesitation was fatal. Trying to save possessions was fatal. Waiting to see how bad it would get was fatal. In Chicago, 1871, survival came down to seconds. The time it took to decide, the time it took to move, the time it took to realize that everything you thought was solid could vanish in minutes. The Great Fire of Chicago did not destroy the city because people failed to escape. It destroyed the city because people believed escape would always be possible, right up until the moment it was not. I'm Michael, watching the past so we can understand the present. And together, we keep history fueled. I see you in the next era.